Fellas, this auto rifle is literally the epitome of can't stop, won't stop. Duty bound is allowing me to blow my load constantly without stopping. And it's because of this roll right here. Triple tap and 4 times the charm together. Now, a very weird combination that we've never seen before. Triple tap, which states that landing precision hits will return 1 round to the magazine. And 4 times the charm, which states that landing 4 precision hits will return 2 rounds to the magazine. Both of these are proccing together, which is kind of nuts. You can see right there at the bottom left end of your screen, both of these traits being active, allowing me to lay on the trigger constantly. And you see the ammo that's being regenerated with these consecutive precision shots. And if you wanted to take it a step further, obviously you can pair this auto rifle with Axiom War Rig and you literally never have to reload. Now we ask ourselves, is this really that beneficial? Does having an auto rifle that you never have to reload really present us the best version of this 600 round per minute auto rifle? Or should we in fact be looking at damage perks like One for All, Frenzy, or Rampage, or even that of Vorpal? Now, to be honest with you, I like those damage perks. Vorpal on a primary weapon gives you 20% more damage inside of PvE. One for All gives you that 35% increase there in damage, and it's super easy to proc and reproc. Frenzy, which gives that plus 15% in damage, as well as a ton of other benefits, including handling, reload speed, and on top of that, Rampage, which every single kill grants you a damage stack, starting at 10% and ramping all the way up to 33%. Would all of these traits be better than that of 4 times the charm? Fellas, I would say that for the most part, damage perks do feel good, right? When you get that ball rolling, you start seeing your weapon dealing more and more damage. It's a beautiful feeling. However, I can also say watching triple tap and 4 times the charm work together and synergize and constantly provide me ammo is another level of dopamine I've never experienced before. The last time I saw something as beautiful as this was when Mulligan and armor piercing rounds were bugged and you could get it on Reckless Oracle and absolutely blow your load for almost ever. I would say for the most part, 4 times the charm, triple tap takes suppression fire to a whole nother level. And considering that this weapon's already a kinetic weapon, so it's dealing more damage inside of PvE, and considering you can get the Adept version of this weapon and apply Big One spec, there are ways to work around not having that damage perk in that final column. Because if I just get a damage perk in that final column, fellas, this is just another auto rifle to me. It's not special anymore. That triple tap 4 times the charm roll, that is what makes this weapon feel special. And ask yourself, if you could blow your load for 10 minutes straight without ever stopping, would you do it? I would. That's a superpower. You're dang right I would. Overall, that to me was the most intriguing thing on this PvE roll. And if you combine it with Vanguard's Vindication, again, final blows of the weapon grant small amounts of health. Now it's just 7 HP, but it's still small amounts of health. And if you're going against champions, Stunning Recovery states that stunning a champion partially refills your magazine. It also triggers health regeneration and improves recovery for a short duration. A very nice bump there on so many levels. That plus 40 there in recovery, refreshes a percentage of the magazine, heals 60 HP, and it lasts for 3 seconds. Very, very nice. So you don't necessarily have to have 4 times the charm triple tap against champions, because if you're rocking stunning recovery, well, it's giving you ammo back. And you could do, say, triple tap and Vorpal weapon, or combinations like stats for all and One for All. All I'm saying is that the unique factor of this auto rifle is that triple tap 4 times the charm combo. That is a beautiful feeling to experience. And whether you main the weapon or not, I want you to just get that roll and at least try it. Now looking at PvP, we tried out this roll right here. It came with Hammer Forge for that bump there in range, Accurized rounds for another bump there in range, Perpetual Motion, which is such a good trait on so many different weapons as it can proc pre-gunfights, and Dynamic Sway Reduction, where it improves accuracy and stability while continuously holding down the trigger. This weapon also came with a ranged Masterwork, and we tried it out on a couple of different things. We tried it out on a controller with things like Adept targeting. You even got things like Adept counterbalance or Adept range if you wanted to boost that range up even more, and we got up to like 78 range on that, which is very, very nice. Max range on this weapon, by the way, if you were to load everything out accordingly with an Adept range mod and say something like full bore, this weapon can reach all the way up to 33 meters, which is not bad for an auto rifle. I know a lot of people are like, yo, that's garbage. But for an auto rifle, pretty good. I mean, that's better than things like Summoner, Gnawing Hunger, hell, even Sorrow's Verse. Weapons that beat it out, though, very easily is, of course, things like Scaithlock. But for the most part, having that 18 zoom does put it up a notch in comparison to other 600s. And, of course, other auto rifles in general. And that's before we take into account other range boosting perks. And if you're worried about stability here, this is where Dynamic Sway and Perpetual Motion was really helping. Again, Perpetual Motion starts off at 1 stack, giving you that 5 stability, 10 handling, and 10 reload speed, but it elevates and doubles at 2 stacks, and it persists throughout the gunfight. And Dynamic Sway is really nice as it serves 2 purposes. It improves that accuracy, but it also makes that recoil direction more vertical, right? The longer you hold down the trigger, the more accurate and the more vertical the weapon gets, thus resulting in the weapon pretty much doing away completely with balloon, which does affect a lot of our auto rifles. Now, in my dueling moments, I did did really like this weapon. Like, it really did feel good. And the only thing that's holding duty bound off, even though everybody's saying this weapon is duty and it's terrible and it's garbage, dude, what's holding duty bound back is just what's holding all 600 round per minute auto rifles back. At one time, this was the meta, and had this weapon released way back when Hardlight was the meta and Gillier was the meta, duty bound would be an absolute monster. They have a 0.8 second time to kill value, which is good for its optimal TTK, but it requires 8 crits in one body, and its body shot time to kill is one of the worst at 1.3 seconds. Auto rifles, because they are such spammy weapons, are never going to be meta unless they have more forgiveness, unless you just amp up that optimal time to kill. And I know auto rifles like Suros Regime still gets away with things because it is a different weapon all in its own. With spinning up and focus fire, especially with the buff there with focus fire, Suros is not the benchmark for auto rifles. It's definitely an outlier. Same with Vex Mythoclast. I know a lot of people don't look at that as an auto rifle, but it pretty much is. Duty bound for what it is though inside of PvP was winning duels for me, but there are multiple times, especially with someone playing off of a hand cannon and playing peak oriented, that duty bound would get slapped. And it's just a problem that auto rifles possess. You have to engage, and you have to have an enemy willing to foolishly engage you. But if they are willing to foolishly engage you, duty bound really will put some folks down. Now, as far as like the mod choice, yeah, you can load out that extra bit of range. And again, Adept range adds on +10 there in range. And overall, that's like a bump of about 2 meters almost. So it does help. But if you want instead, you can just roll out with the counterbalance mod. And if you did an Adept counterbalance mod, that does hurt your range slightly, but it does increase your recoil direction up to 95, making the weapon very vertical. But even if you were just to do a regular counterbalance mod, you're still looking at 75 recoil direction. It's still vertical enough, although not as vertical, but still an odd number there, right? As far as the god roll goes though for PvP, the options that I would actually consider if you're a PC player and play mouse and keyboard is perpetual motion and either rampage or dynamic sway. And if you're a controller player, I think you can just go ahead and skip over perpetual motion and go straight for Zen moment and either do Zen moment rampage or Zen moment dynamic sway. And again, the thing about Zen moment, yes, causing damage with the weapon increases the stability, but it's hardly noticeable on mouse and keyboard. It really seems like it doesn't offer any benefits. And I want to say a podcast a while back, they even stated that Zen moment does little to nothing for mouse and keyboard users. It is definitely more noticeable on controllers. There's a reason why I loved Blast Furnace with Zen moment. It was phenomenal. And I think Zen moment here on duty bound, especially when you combine it with damage perks like rampage, or if you just wanted to lean more in with that consistency, Zen moment dynamic sway reduction could definitely provide that level of consistency. And again, Vanguard's Vindication would be the option I would go to inside of PvP, just to give yourself a little bit of a health bump there, right? Overall, guys, duty bound is not nearly as bad as people are making this weapon out to be. It's got some unique rolls with that 4 times a charm triple tap roll. It's like a legendary sweep business, especially when you combine it with Axiom War Rig. I would say the biggest con to this weapon is honestly its scope. Aiming down sights with this gun makes you wish you could change the scope out on it. Like for real, that scope is just so boxy. It's really hard to keep up with what's happening in front of you. And another reason why it feels even boxier is because again, it does have by default more zoom than most other auto rifles. Most auto rifles sit around 16 zoom. Duty bound sits at a default 18. So it does feel zoomier. And when you have a scope that puts this box around you or in front of you, it feels even more claustrophobic, right? But other than that, I think duty bound is still a very good weapon. Now, will we find ourselves in another 600 round per minute auto rifle meta in the future? I don't know, man. Again, Bungie used to be really big about cycling out metas, and it's been a long time since auto rifles were king. So it's a possibility. Either way it goes, lock down that God roll duty bound this week. And if you haven't seen our Nightfall guide, feel free to check it out. We went over it yesterday. It's arms dealer. It's a fantastic Nightfall to farm on. Very quick, easy turnarounds. And if RNG treats you right, you'll have a God roll of this weapon in no time. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching. And as always,
Slap that like button like your mama told you right.